Have you ever wondered why you're doing all the things to lose weight, but your attempts to get there seem to fail? Or are you tired of battling with your thoughts on your weight loss journey? Those thoughts that keep reminding you of your past failures and pestering you to just eat the cookie already. If so, I'm here to share my story with you to help you to transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health God's way, because God has a lot to say about our health. And today I'm going to uncover some biblical principles that will guide you towards a life of true health and freedom from failed diets. So let's do this. Weight loss can be a challenging journey full of lots of setbacks and a ton of obstacles to overcome. And it kind of feels like the game of Frogger to me. Does anybody else remember that game? Anybody play that game? It's really easy to get discouraged when you feel like you've tried every diet on the planet only to end up right back where you started, or only maybe now with less money, right? I can totally relate to this struggle though, because I faced it myself. One of the biggest challenges for me was staying consistent when the scale wasn't moving fast enough. I really wanted to give up when the numbers weren't moving as fast as I thought they should. And when they're not, it's really tough to make healthy choices every day normally, especially when you're surrounded by tempting treats like Doritos or you have a best friend like Ben and Jerry. But when the scale isn't moving, it makes it even tougher, right? So I had to really get past that obstacle for sure. And I have, and I'm so thankful for that. But I realized that if I wanted to make real change and lose weight, that I had to get healthy first. And I was really trying to do it all backwards for so long. I thought that I needed to lose weight to get healthy, but the way to actually lose weight is to get healthy first. And that was like a mind-blowing thing for me to have learned when I first started out transforming, myself from the inside out. I needed to commit to being someone who was healthy and doing the things a healthy person does as a lifestyle. And I really wasn't a committed person to doing those things. I thought if I could just check off those boxes long enough, follow the diet, do the exercise plan, show up, in those ways of all the doing, that eventually I could just quit and go back to eating, my junk food diet before, and I would just stay skinny. But obviously that doesn't work, and I'm going to share with you a little bit more about that in a little while. But in order to make this lifestyle shift, it wasn't easy, and I had to start small by making small changes to my diet gradually while I was working on my mindset and building up to bigger changes. So for example, instead of reaching for junk food when I was hungry, I started keeping healthy snacks around. Also trying new recipes and experimenting with different ingredients that helped me to realize I really do enjoy eating healthy food. And so that I didn't feel like I was just living on a kale diet, because nobody wants to do that, right? So over time though, making those healthy choices got easier, and I actually really started to love it. So of course there were still setbacks along the way. I had to learn to navigate obstacles like, Aunt Sue bringing her famous chocolate pie to Thanksgiving. But instead of giving up when I ate the chocolate pie at Thanksgiving, I used those experiences as opportunities to learn and grow. And I started taking time to really self-evaluate in order to understand why I had made the unhealthy choice and what I could do differently next time. But my journey to weight loss and better health wasn't just about changing my diet, although that's a big part of it. Really, it was about changing my mindset, and this was key. The first thing that I had to start doing differently was learn to prioritize my health even when it wasn't easy. Because let's face it, ladies, we tend to take care of everyone and everything else first and leave very little room, if any, for our own self-care. The mindset that I had that I didn't have time to take care of me was actually hurting the ones that I loved the most, because prioritizing your health is saying to those around you that you love them because you're determined to be the best that you can for them. So making this decision at first to me seems selfish, but I really realized that self-care is vital. Self-care is not selfish. Have you ever been on a plane? If you have, you know this flight attendant gives a safety demonstration before every takeoff every single time, right? It's always the same. And what does she say to do if the oxygen mask falls? Put on yours first before assisting anyone else, because you can't help them if you can't breathe. This example was a light bulb moment for me to wake up and put on my oxygen mask so that I could be free to take care of those that God entrusted to me. And while the road was still long and challenging, I'm really proud to say that I've lost 55 pounds and I've learned how to keep it off. But not just the ordinary worldly diet type advice out there. I did it with the help of my faith, with the help of God and biblical principles for health. So Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." This verse really highlights the importance of renewing our mind, which is a crucial part of genuine change and true transformation. It's actually the only verse in the Bible where we can find the prescription for living a transformed life too. It's the only one. So it starts in the mind with what we think. And what we think fuels what we believe, which determines our actions or inactions. So when we align our thoughts and beliefs with God's will, that's when we experience long-lasting change and reach our health goals. And if you don't know what God's will is for your life, your health, any of that stuff, go to the Word. The Word will tell you. You'll find it all right there. So even though there were still so many obstacles and many setbacks along the way, I found that by aligning my thoughts and actions with God's will, I've been able to make those positive changes and move forward in my life that I was looking for but could never really seem to find. My beliefs were hindering my progress for a very long time. Like, I believed a lot of lies. I believed a lot of things that were not true, and those really hindered my progress. My mindset was in the way of me actually being someone who is healthy and not just dreaming about it. So that was the part that I had to really work on first before I could just keep the weight off. Like, I could lose weight, but I couldn't seem to keep it off. And it was because I believed things that just weren't true. So I used to have all sorts of limiting beliefs surrounding my health. And one of those lies that I believe, and these are also called strongholds, okay? These can be interchangeable. The word stronghold could be a limiting belief or a lie that you believe that you've just built like this whole city out of. But one of the lies that I believed was that exercising too much was going to be a hassle. I didn't, it was too hard, and that it really wouldn't be worth it. And I had even convinced myself that if I started exercising, I was going to become too muscular and I would just bulk up and I would be bulkier than I wanted to be. And I also had this belief that I could just diet for a short period of time, lose the weight, and then go back to eating all the junk and actually stay thin. Anyone else ever think like this? Let me know in the comments that I'm not alone. And obviously this didn't work, and chances are it probably hasn't worked for you either. I finally realized that this was a flawed way of thinking. And in 1 Corinthians verse 9, Paul uses an interesting analogy to tie our spiritual life to our physical bodies. Okay, so he says, "Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wealth, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and I keep it under control, lest after preaching to others that I myself should be disqualified." So basically, he's saying that it's super important to have self-control and discipline in our lives. And he uses the comparison of an athlete who trains and disciplines their body to compete and win a prize that's perishable, right? But he's saying that this applies to our Christian lives too. And this applies to our health. So basically, just like how an athlete disciplines their body, we as Christians should also discipline our bodies and keep them under control. So the idea is to live like Jesus and to show others how it's done. So Paul says he's got to keep his body in check or he won't be able to preach anymore. And I think that's so interesting. This verse really reminds us that we need to take care of our spiritual life and our physical body by eating right and working out and disciplining ourselves. All right, so you want to start eating right and you want to start working out. Yeah, right? But first, let's get to the root of the problem. We got to change our focus from just the outside stuff. stuff. And that's really the key to losing weight. And that's where thoughts and beliefs come in. And here's what I found out. I was all about the outside actions, but I wasn't dealing with what was really going on inside. I never took the time to inventory what I thought about weight loss or body image and health in general. But once I started thinking differently and aligning my thoughts with what God was teaching me, everything started to change. So, like we said before, Romans 12:2 reminds us you got to change your thinking if you want to change your life, right? So that means we got to take a good hard look at what we believe about weight loss and body image if we want to make real long-term progress. So thoughts lead to beliefs and beliefs lead to action. So what thoughts do you have regarding weight loss and dieting? Do you think things like, I can't lose weight, or I can't stick to a diet, dieting's too hard, if this diet didn't work in X amount of time, then I quit? So maybe you've thought some of those thoughts. I definitely have thought every one of those thoughts. But let's dig deeper. What thoughts do you think about yourself, not just dieting? Do you think things about yourself like, I'm such a failure, or I never follow through, or I have no willpower, or I have to lose weight before I'm valued or seen or sexy, successful? Whatever it is. Have you ever thought those things? I definitely have thought most of those things myself. And when you've dieted in the past, what was the motivation that you had to start? So I really want you to think about these things. Was your motivation being fed up with yourself? Were you tired of being overweight? Were you just wanting to like what you see in the mirror? Which, by the way, really needs to start now at your current size. So you're not any more valuable at 120 pounds than you are at 220 pounds. Let me just say that right now. So learning to love what you see, who you see in the mirror at any size is incredibly important to your health in general, okay? And to just know who you are in Christ and know that you're valued. But was your motivation maybe to be more active or to wear some of the clothes that are in your closet that you haven't been able to wear in a long time? Those are some common motivations that we have, right? But what if you found a new motivation and you started to have different thoughts, not just surface level stuff? And those thoughts would be thoughts that stem from you wanting to honor your body as the temple. Instead of thinking, I can't have that because I'm on a diet, start thinking things like, I can have what I want because everything's permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Not everything is helpful. So yes, you can eat the cookie, but do you need the cookie? No, you don't, because it's not actually helping you in any way. So stop looking at weight loss as an end goal. It's really only a byproduct of making healthy lifestyle changes and forming those new neural pathways. So getting healthy doesn't just mean losing weight. It's really about identity shifts so that you can go from, I can't eat that, to, I just don't eat that. So our thoughts are not just fleeting ideas that pass through our mind, but they have the power to shape and influence our beliefs. So what we believe about ourselves, our abilities, and the world around us is heavily influenced by our thoughts and the agreements that we make with ourselves. So essentially, what we think about forms our belief system, and what we believe, we agree with. So these agreements that we make with ourselves are really powerful because they act like a contract that binds us to certain beliefs that are going to influence our actions or inactions. So whether you believe you're worthy of taking care of yourself or not, and you've made this agreement, will either cause you to act in a way that's healthy or not, right? So it's important to recognize the power of our thoughts and beliefs as a foundation for making real change, because they can have a direct impact on the choices that we make and ultimately the trajectory of our life. So what you think about forms your belief system. So what do you believe about yourself? What agreements have you made about health and dieting? Agreements are powerful because it's essentially a contract, right? It's a binding agreement. So what is binding you? What is holding you? What's tied you up? And take a few minutes and grab your journal and hit pause if you need to, and just go ahead and write some things down that are already coming to mind so you don't forget those agreements that you've made, so you can break those agreements off your life. So agreements are formed when you have a thought or someone has spoken something over you and you believe it, you agree with it. And that is really just the power of words, which we won't get into today. But agreeing with that thing that you think or that's been spoken over you, gives it power over you, whether it's good or bad, because your actions are going to follow suit. So for example, you can ask yourself this question when it comes to anything health related, right? You can just say, okay, why do I always do this? What's causing me to do this? What agreements have I made in this area that keeps causing this behavior, that I'm going to do this thing because I think this other thing? So where did this come from? Stop and ask yourself, what agreements have I made in this area? Identify them, write them down. And those agreements usually start with the words I always or I never, those type of statements, those broken record type of thoughts that you have in your mind. So I've written these prompts for you to go back to also later on in the description. So don't worry if you can't take notes right now, it's no big deal. But just click the thumbs up button on this video and save it to your favorite playlist on YouTube. So you're going to be able to go back and access it easily anytime and you won't have lost it. Okay. So now that you've recognized some of those thoughts and maybe tripping you up, let's switch to talking about the actions that come from those beliefs and how you can start taking the right actions to really start being someone who isn't just dieting anymore, but someone who is making healthy choices. It's super important to realize that your actions are a total reflection of your beliefs, because whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. That's what Henry Ford said. And you believe what you think, unless you're practicing really great self-awareness, which helps, because often if you're doing that, you can catch the lies of the enemy when they come at us through our thoughts like a million times a day. But if you're thinking negatively about yourself, or you don't believe that you can make good choices, you won't. And on the other hand, if you believe that you're worth taking care of because you understand how loved and valued you are by God, and you think thoughts like, I'm a temple of the Holy Spirit. Everything I eat or drink is for the glory of God, and I can make good choices because the Spirit of God in me empowers me to. See how that works? Don't you just feel much more confident listening to that thought? That was really a thought that God gave me that I clung to, and I got it from His Word, and He just kept reminding me of the truth in my quiet times, which fueled me to keep going and making good choices for my body. So that's why it's really important to think about what we believe and try to shift towards a more positive and empowering mindset. That's foundation is from the Word, which is the truth. So remember, real changes start from the inside out. So when you focus on changing your beliefs, your actions naturally follow suit. So changing your behaviors or habits starts with a change of your mind and not just a list of diet do's and don'ts. Diets advocate for behavior modification, which is just temporary. Behavior modification is completely temporary. Anybody can act a certain way for a period of time and modify their behavior, but if there's no real identity shift, after a while, they just go back to their same old habits. So behavior modification alone is never going to lead to lasting change and true transformation. So if you're looking for a community of women who are losing weight together, using biblical principles for health, I want you to join my free Facebook group. The link's in the description too. So you're going to get access to free coaching and support. And this is just a great way to get to know each other too. I hope you found this information helpful and inspiring on your weight loss journey. Remember, your thoughts and beliefs are incredibly powerful and have the ability to shape your actions and ultimately your life. So if you want to learn more about the power of self-talk and how it affects your weight loss journey, make sure to check out this next video. And I'll see you guys in the next one.